But here's an interesting thing. They did a study, this was done by Dr. Sylvia Rim, who's really one of our international experts on underachieving gifted. And she looked at family dynamics of the families of children who were gifted and achieving versus family, what you call family factors, family environment factors of those who were underachieving. And just looking to see what's the difference. They looked at a lot of different factors, and they only found a few that mattered. Here was an interesting one. Moms that work, moms that don't. A lot of moms here. It's one that haunts us, isn't it? Should I work? Should I not? Should I stay home? Should I go to work? That drives you crazy, doesn't it? And you hear all kinds of messages. I'm such a chicken, I work 50%. Now that's just chicken. It's like if the research comes out and says should have stayed home, did. Should have gone to work, did. You know, it's like that's not the way to do it. I mean, that's just hedging your bets, right? So the answer, what do you do? So what do you think were the differences? We've got the moms of these children who all are gifted. These are achieving. These are underachieving. Which one do you think had most moms that stayed home? Toss up. About the same between the two populations. But how they felt about it was completely different. Interesting. Okay? Of the ones that stayed home, they were more likely to communicate messages and even think things like, you know, I'm staying home with you, but Mommy had a great career. And she could have been a partner in the law firm, but she gave it up for you. Now, maybe not quite that blunt. You know what I'm saying? But something under those. You get it? I'd rather be working, but I'm staying home with you because that's what people told me I ought to do. Likewise, those that went to work, now this is a totally innocent message, is it not? Those that went to work were more likely to say something like, darling, Mommy loves you so much, and if I had my way, if I had my choice in this world, I'd stay home with you all day long. But you know, Daddy doesn't make enough. So, you know what I mean? So I got to go to work to be able to support the family. Okay, what do the kids hear? What do they really hear out of that? It's their fault, and Mommy doesn't have choices. Mommy has to do something Mommy doesn't want to do because Mommy is a victim. It's a huge mental concept within underachieving gifted is that I'm victimized. I don't have choices. I don't have the power over myself to be able to make choices. Here's a good one, just so we don't let those dads off the hook. Dads were more likely to come home from work. Granted, they didn't stay home. Okay, we're not going to have that for a while. We got another couple of generations to get to that. But they did come home from work, and they were more likely to say things like, you know what, my boss is an idiot. I mean, I could do his job with two hands tied behind my back. I mean, you know what I mean? He really never. I mean, I know more than everybody that I work with. I could do their jobs. You get what I'm saying? So what do we get? How do you translate that into the school environment? That teacher is, I know more than that. You get that? Yeah. Again, it's that victim mentality, right? So just modeling contentment and choice. Saying, you know what? I have choices. I tell my kids, I love my work. I love you, but I love my work. And the whole time when they were growing up, if I had been in Randolph County for the day, we prayed for Randolph County when I got home. We prayed for the teachers at Swerves. We prayed for the teachers at Service. We prayed for the teachers at Redmond. You know, it was part of their understanding that this is what I do. This is the way I give back to the world. And I want you to be a part of it because I love what I do. And oh my gosh, I love what I do. But if you did what I did, you'd love it too. Okay, so you want to figure out ways to make them apart. The three factors that were most indicative: inconsistency between parenting styles. By the way, good cop, bad cop doesn't work. It's good if you're buying a used car. Seems to be a really effective strategy. We've used it before. I will say it works well. But in parenting, it doesn't work. And I see it all the time. Who's usually the bad cop? Depends. It depends, doesn't it? Mom is the bad cop if mom's there all the time, and dad just feels like, you know, I'm not here much, so I want when I'm here for everything to be happy and pleasant. Or dad's the bad cop if mom's like, wait till your daddy gets home. Right? Got to heard that line, right? You just wait till you're dead. Inconsistency like that teaches children manipulation, and it feeds underachievement. So the second thing was one parent discontent with their job or their choice to stay home. And the third, and I want you to hear this, was negative talk in front of the child about school or teachers or peers. in front of the child about school or teachers or peers. If you have an issue that you really are discontent with in the school, minimize what you say in front of your child. I cannot say this loudly enough. I know you feel like, well, Linda, that's not honest, and here's what happens. When you feed that child's concerns about school by allowing things said like, you know, anything around this area, the teacher doesn't like me, or that school in any way is set up against me, or they just don't know what they're doing, that child is not now safe to come home and tell you happy news. You've taken that away. You've deprived them of any change along the way. They can't now come back and say, you know what, that teacher actually did something really cool today. Or I had a ball at school. They can't say things because what feeds them now is coming home and telling you all the bad things that teacher did, and it sets it up as a cycle. Now, I did not lie to my children a lot. Okay, so I don't want you to get the wrong impression. All right? But I will tell you, I told little white lies along the way that I think might have just been tweaks. Let's not call them lies, let's call them tweaks. Tweaks of the truth, okay? Whenever I went to open house, particularly if they had, and this goes all the way to high school, if they had a teacher that was a little bit contentious with them, they weren't quite happy in that environment, I made it a point of coming home and saying, you know what? I saw Mr. Finkel at school. That guy's just crazy about you. I don't know what you do, but he is just crazy about you. Now, what I might have meant was you drive him crazy, but it's all the same sort of concept. Crazy was really at the core of it all. But what I would see every single time, and maybe my kids are just suckers, was, really? Really? Because here's who I care about, not to be selfish. I care about my child. And some of us pan that out by defending our children against all others. I pan it out as, I want you to think this world loves you. Because in my mind it does, or at least it should. So all I'm going to tell you is you are so loved. They are just nuts about you at that school. Just nuts about you. Now sometimes they were really nuts about the youngest one, but we won't go there. Such as when I went to a parent conference in 7th grade and I said, you know, I noticed that all of Carter's friends got invitations to the Junior National Honor Society, and you know that boy, you know what he's like, you know, a couple of times he's gotten stuff like that and he's torn it up. So I'm just asking you all, do you think maybe he just tore that letter up? And the entire team is sitting there looking, and the male on the team, Fred, leaned over and patted my hand and said, no, Miss Robinson, there's not a teacher on this team who would have nominated him for National Honor. But he's now at an Ivy League school. If that makes you feel any better, somehow they live through it and come out the other end. I do not know how, but somehow it's all good, okay? Don't solve their problems, do their homework, or clean their room. And it's not for your sake, and it's not for the teacher's sake. It's simply for their sake. Every time you do their homework for them, you communicate to them you are incapable. You are incapable of doing this without me. And whereas it might make us feel good, it does not empower them. Sylvia Rim, again, our expert on underachieving gifted, where's the one place you think she tells you never to do homework? You're the moms. Where should we never have our children doing homework? The kitchen, right? It's the most tempting place to do it because you can get a meal done, right? So it's like, of course I want it in the kitchen. That way I can cook and tutor and cook and tutor and cook and tutor. She says from kindergarten on, they should have their own place that's equipped with what they need. And they go to that place and they work as hard as they can. And then they come to you and say, you know what, I'm stumped on this. And you ask them, how long did you try? And if they say, well, I tried it this, then you know what, I'll give you 10 minutes. Come back to me after 10 minutes and show me your try marks. And then if you can do that, then I'll help you out. So you don't say, I'm not going to help you, but the idea is that they learn to do. Here's a magical thing, and we don't have the time that I wish we had to do this, because if we did, we would spend the entire time on just this. But I'm going to tell you something. This is the only time I'll ever be able to tell you this. This can improve not only your parenting, but your marriage. Imagine that. Imagine that you can walk away with something that would improve your marriage. Not a bad day, okay? Not a bad day. This is a problem.